So if you watched my last video, which is RC Airboat Part 1, I can put it right up there. I had a few problems, like the front was going down in the water, so I've addressed those all in this build, like the 3D printed parts that you'll see right now. And yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I'll get the stuff done and you'll see the finished boat by the end of the video. So I just 3D printed these two parts, which go on the front of the boat. They're not the right orientation right now, but I'll show you them on there when the paint dries. And I'm trying to use this black spray paint to waterproof the 3D print material, because it's not waterproof by itself. So I'll try that out. I also might use like a spray or epoxy or something to do that if this doesn't work. And then I'll epoxy it to the front of the ABS pipe. So yeah, I'll wait for these to dry. So I've designed these two little wire hangers that hang from the bottom of this tarp so that I can paint the bottom of these. And you can see it's still pretty wet, but it's drying out nicely. And I think I might do a clear coat of some spray, like Flex Seal Clear or something. I don't know exactly what it's called. But yeah, I'll see you then. So I've designed this rudder thing, which goes down on the back of the boat, and is this one piece of wood with two other little pieces of wood epoxied on, and then with two bolts going through them, so it should hold on pretty well. And this will go down over the back of the boat and slide onto another piece for easy removal. And it will probably just be held on with a bolt, like one of these. So I'd show you how it worked, but the epoxy is still drying on those, so I will see you when it is dry. This rudder, you can see this is propped up, so that's why it's pointing this way. And it goes like that, and it'll turn to steer it. And the bolt here comes in and out to take the rudder off so that I can set this down without the rudder being in the way. Otherwise, there would not be a way to set it down other than upright like this. And then out the other side comes this, which will turn it. And that's going to be connected with a wire to the servo, which is a 30-something gram servo. It's bigger than my 9-gram servos that I normally use. It's an old one from my RC car. So I'm gonna try that out because I think there'll be a lot of pressure on it. So here's my setup right now. This will be glued down and probably sunken in, the servo. And I just tested if it works. Works pretty well. And then this is the rudder, and it turns like that. And there's a piece underneath which will bolt into this piece, this big rudder piece. So I'm hoping that works pretty well. I'm a little worried about the resistance here, but I'm hoping it'll work. And I'll have to go find a little piece of metal to connect these. But yeah, I'll get that tested out. Another cool thing about this servo is it's from Traxxas, and it's actually waterproof. So that's pretty nice. So I've had to remove the two bottom pieces of wood that were epoxied under there because I just misjudged the distance and this wasn't able to fit on and fit over the hole. So I think what I'm going to do to make it so that it doesn't go up is I'm going to glue, just with hot glue, these 4 bolts on. That makes it a bit heavier. Also, there's all the weight from the 2 bolts and 2 nuts that are on this. It's pretty heavy. So I think that combined weight will be enough to keep it down. And I'll start designing the servo mechanism. So I just built and glued this little apparatus that'll go on top of the servo and turn. And it'll basically be like an extended arm because it wasn't turning the rudder enough to actually turn the boat. So I'm going to try that out right now. So I just decided that this is not going to work. It just doesn't work. So I designed this little piece of wood that goes on the end there and turns into the servo. And it fits right into here. It can bolt in. So I'm going to have to find a way to secure it to the servo, though, when it's upside down. So I'll do that next. So I just finished the design process, and it actually holds its own weight, and it turns pretty well. I think that's going to work well. except for one thing. All the weight, I don't know if you can see that well, but all the weight is on that little joint between the servo and this plastic thing. And that's only secured by a dot of hot glue. So I think any, like, if it's sideways and any water turbulence will just push it off. So I'm thinking maybe a dot of epoxy will work better, so I'm gonna do that. So I've actually done a lot off camera. I've opened up this hole quite a bit so that this can fit in, just like that, nice and straight. And I've connected this wire from there to there, not for electrical, but so that if this falls off for some reason, I won't lose it. And I'm also 3D printing a little thing to go over this. It sets right over it and covers the sides up so that you don't get all that ugly hole there. Do you have So I didn't really explain at the yacht club what happened, but basically the rudder was being held onto the servo just by a tiny little piece of epoxy that held the servo on there on the bottom, and it just snapped off. And oh no! I had to pick a place where I thought it would snap. I would pick that place. So I wasn't really surprised, but I'm going to order some new pieces that are actually made for the servo, and I think they'll work a lot better. So the parts that I ordered just came, and they're these little things. I only need one, but they fit on the end of the servo, and they will replace that part that broke, and I think these will work a lot better. And they have these little holes so I can zip tie them on. So I just got the little piece screwed on. I made this little adapter, and it's on pretty well, but I don't think it's on well enough yet. I wasn't able to get enough mechanical advantage with it, because this is the little hex wrench that I have to use, so I can't use it with my fingers. And yes, it does go on this, but this won't fit in there. It's just like a few millimeters off. So this might be good enough, and if it isn't, I'll probably have to take the servo out, which means undoing the entire top thing, which wouldn't be great. But I think I'll test it out first. Push to the side when I'm not even moving the servo. What happened underneath is this little glue thing gave out, so now this can move. But the actual servo mechanism did not give out, because it doesn't turn, so that's good news. So this is the servo rudder adapter piece that I had been using, and as you can see it bends a lot because of the hot glue there. It's not very strong. So what I'm planning to do with this is to use those two holes that are on the servo piece and drive a rod into the wood. So here's my idea so far. I have a little pin going through the piece of wood, and I've drilled those two holes that it fits into. And it goes through the two holes in the servo piece. So I think this is going to work pretty well, along with some glue and zip ties to go around it. So let's get started. The servo is all done now, and as you can see with the cotter pin going all the way through there, it doesn't really move much. And it doesn't move really in any direction, so I'm going to go test it out now.